Did you know that a battle fought over 250 years ago today, still considered to be one of the most important events in world history? No, it's not the Battle of Hastings or the Battle of Marathon. It's a battle fought in a rather unlikely location, the Indian subcontinent. On June 23, 1757, the British East India Company decisively defeated the Nawab of Bengal at the Battle of Plassey. This victory gave the company the foothold it needed to establish British rule in India. Now, if you don't know much about this battle or the period leading up to it, let me give you a brief overview. From the 1600s onwards, European powers began establishing trading posts all over the world in an attempt to acquire valuable resources and dominate global trade. In Asia, the Portuguese, Chinese, and Japanese had established trading posts along the coast of what is now Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia. And in India, the British and French had established trading posts along the southwestern coast. But the riches of the interior remained largely untapped. Now, the wealth of the Indian subcontinent was legendary. For centuries, merchants from all over the known world traveled to places like Calicut and Canton to purchase spices, cotton, silk, porcelain, and ivory. In fact, it was the lure of Indian spices that led to the discovery of the Americas. But by the 1700s, the riches of the Indian Ocean were becoming more difficult to obtain. European powers soon realized that if they wanted access to the riches of Asia, they would have to go directly to the source. So they turned their attention to the interior of the subcontinent. Now, there was one major obstacle standing in their way: the Mughal Empire. At its height in the 1600s, the Mughals controlled much of northern and central India. But by the 1700s, the empire was in decline. A series of weak rulers had led to increased instability and the loss of many valuable territories. By the middle of the century, the Mughals no longer had a monopoly on Indian trade, and European powers were quick to take advantage. The British and French set their sights on the newly independent state of Bengal, which was located east of the Mughal heartland. The Nawab of Bengal controlled the most valuable part of the subcontinent, including the cities of Calcutta, Lucknow, and Patna. These cities were major hubs for trade and finance. They also controlled the Ganges River, which was the lifeblood of the region. Whoever controlled Bengal effectively controlled the riches of eastern India. The Nawab's vizier, Alivardi Khan, recognized this, and he spent much of his reign strengthening Bengal's defenses. By the 1750s, the British and the Nawab of Bengal were at odds over control of the lucrative spice trade. Tensions escalated when the Nawab seized a number of British trading ships and imprisoned several British merchants. In retaliation, the British launched a military campaign to capture the Nawab's capital at Calcutta. After besieging the city for several months, the British were able to force the Nawab to flee. They then occupied Calcutta and established a puppet government friendly to the British. But this victory proved to be short-lived. Soon after, the Nawab regrouped and marched on Calcutta with an army of over 50,000 men. The British were forced to retreat to the town of Plassey, where they made one fatal error. They underestimated their enemy. The British were led by a man named Robert Clive, who is considered to be the founder of British India. Clive's army consisted of less than 4,000 men, many of whom were mercenaries. Despite being heavily outnumbered, Clive decided to make a stand at Plassey. When the Nawab's army arrived, Clive's men had just finished building a series of fortifications, and the British were well armed with cannons and muskets. The Nawab, on the other hand, had a poorly trained army with outdated weapons. After several hours of fighting, the British had won a decisive victory. The Nawab's forces were routed, and the British were able to capture several key cities, including Calcutta. Clive then returned to England a hero, and the Battle of Plassey is still taught in British schools today. The battle is often considered to be the beginning of British rule in India. It also marked the beginning of the end for the Mughal Empire. Without the riches of Bengal, the Mughals were no longer the dominant power in India. They were eventually replaced by the British East India Company, which went on to rule most of the subcontinent for the next 2 centuries. So what can we learn from this battle? One lesson is never underestimate your enemy. The British were able to defeat a much larger army due to their superior military technology and tactics. Another lesson is that geography is important, but it's not everything. The Nawab of Bengal controlled the most valuable part of the subcontinent, but he was unable to use this advantage to defeat the British. Finally, the Battle of Plassey shows us the importance of having a strong military. Without a strong military, the Nawab would have been unable to resist the British invasion. Today, the legacy of the Battle of Plassey continues to be felt in India. Many Indians still resent the British for their role in the battle and the subsequent colonization of the subcontinent. The battle is also seen as a symbol of Western imperialism and its lasting impact on the world. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe and leave a like. And if you want to watch more of my videos, you can do so here. Thanks for watching.